You know that feeling when you wake up exhausted, even after sleeping 8 hours? When your brain feels like it's swimming through fog and you can't remember what you walked into a room for? Here's what nobody's telling you. That's not just tiredness. That's your brain physically changing structure because of burnout. And the worst part? The one thing everyone tells you to do to fix it actually makes it worse. By the end of this, you'll understand why most people are trapped in a cycle they don't even know exists. Burnout isn't some trendy word people throw around when they're having a bad week at work. In 2019, the World Health Organization officially classified it as an occupational phenomenon, not a medical condition, but something real enough that it needed recognition. Recent studies show that 77% of professionals have experienced burnout at their current job. That's not a small number. That's not people being weak or dramatic. That's a crisis hiding in plain sight. But here's where it gets interesting. There's a massive debate happening right now about whether burnout is actually real or if it's just another excuse for people who can't handle pressure. Critics argue that previous generations worked harder without complaining. They say we've gotten soft, that we need to toughen up, but the science tells a different story, one that's way more disturbing than anyone wants to admit. When you're burned out, your body isn't just tired. Physical symptoms start showing up that most people never connect to stress. Hair falling out in clumps, grinding your teeth so hard you crack molars, heart palpitations that make you think something's seriously wrong, digestive issues that come out of nowhere, skin breaking out like you're a teenager again. These aren't separate problems. They're all your body screaming that something's breaking down. And it's not just physical. People report feeling completely detached from their work, cynical about everything, like nothing matters anymore. That emotional numbness, that's not depression, though it feels similar. That's your brain trying to protect itself by shutting down feelings entirely. The scary part is how gradually it happens. You don't wake up one day burned out. It creeps up so slowly that by the time you realize what's happening, the damage is already done. Let's talk about what's actually happening inside your skull right now. When you're under constant stress, your body floods itself with cortisol. That's your stress hormone, and in short bursts, it's helpful. It gets you through presentations and deadlines. But chronic stress means chronic cortisol, and that's when things get dark. Studies using brain scans have shown that prolonged stress actually shrinks your hippocampus. That's the part of your brain responsible for memory and learning. So when you can't remember basic things or feel like you're losing your sharpness, that's not in your head. Well, it is, but it's real physical damage. Your prefrontal cortex, the part that handles decision-making and emotional regulation, also takes a hit. Meanwhile, your amygdala, the fear and emotion center, gets bigger and more reactive. Essentially, the rational part of your brain gets weaker while the panic button gets more sensitive. This is why burned out people make impulsive decisions, why everything feels like a crisis, why you snap at people over small things. Your brain's alarm system is stuck in the on position, and the part that's supposed to tell it to chill out has clocked out early. Recent research from neuroscientists shows that people experiencing burnout have brain patterns similar to those with traumatic injuries. Let that sink in. Working yourself too hard creates the same neural damage as physical trauma. And here's the kicker. Most people don't even realize this is happening because society has normalized feeling like garbage. We wear exhaustion like a badge of honor, proof that we're working hard enough. But what we're actually doing is destroying the organ we need most. Now, here's the trap everyone falls into. The one that keeps burnout going indefinitely. You feel exhausted, overwhelmed, like you're drowning in responsibilities. So, what does everyone tell you? Push through it. Grind harder. Success requires sacrifice. Rest when you're dead. All that inspirational nonsense that sounds motivating but is actually poison. Because here's what actually happens when you push through burnout. You make it exponentially worse. Think about it like this. If you sprained your ankle, would you run a marathon on it? Would anyone tell you that's a good idea? Of course not. But with burnout, we're told to do exactly that. Keep going, keep pushing, keep sacrificing your well-being for productivity. And people do it because they're terrified of falling behind, of being seen as weak, of losing their job or their edge. The stress cycle is real, and it's vicious. You're stressed, so you work harder to get ahead of the stress. Working harder creates more stress. More stress means worse performance. Worse performance means more anxiety about not being good enough. Round and round it goes. Then there's the advice everyone gives. Practice self-care. Take a bubble bath. Do some yoga. Get a massage. And sure, those things feel nice in the moment, but they're like putting a band-aid on a broken bone. They don't address the actual problem. You can't self-care your way out of a toxic work environment or unrealistic expectations. You can't meditate away a boss who expects you to be available 24/7. The guilt around resting makes it even worse. People feel selfish for taking time off, lazy for not being productive every waking moment. That guilt, that's also part of the trap, keeping you stuck in a cycle that benefits everyone except you. Let's destroy one of the biggest myths that's probably affecting you right now. The idea that you can catch up on sleep. You stayed up late all week working? No problem. You'll sleep in on Saturday and balance it out. That's not how sleep works. At all. Sleep debt isn't like a credit card you can pay off later. When you lose sleep, you lose it forever. Those hours are gone, and the damage they cause doesn't get undone by sleeping more later. Your body needs consistent sleep to function properly. Not just any sleep either, but quality sleep that includes full REM cycles. REM sleep is when your brain processes emotions, consolidates memories, and basically does maintenance on itself. Without it, you're running on a brain that's never properly rebooting. Here's what happens when you chronically miss sleep. Your body thinks it's in survival mode. It holds on to weight because it thinks there's a famine. Your immune system weakens. Your blood sugar regulation gets messed up, increasing diabetes risk. Your cardiovascular system takes damage. People who sleep less than 6 hours a night have a 48% higher risk of developing heart disease. That's not a small increase. That's your heart literally struggling because you won't let your body rest. And the insidious part, the more sleep-deprived you are, the less you realize how impaired you actually are. Studies show that after being awake for 18 hours, you're as cognitively impaired as someone who's legally intoxicated. But you feel fine. You think you're functioning normally. You're not. You're making mistakes, missing details, operating at a fraction of your capacity. The blue light from screens is making this worse, suppressing melatonin production and keeping your cortisol elevated when it should be dropping, so you can't fall asleep even when you try, creating another vicious cycle. Here's something most people don't understand about stress, and it's going to change how you see everything. Your body evolved to handle stress in a specific way. When you encounter a threat, your nervous system activates. Adrenaline dumps into your bloodstream, cortisol spikes, your muscles tense, you're ready to fight or run. And here's the critical part. That response needs completion. In nature, you'd either fight the threat, run from it, or freeze until it passes. Then, once the danger is over, your body would physically discharge that energy. Animals do this naturally. Watch a gazelle that escapes a lion. It'll literally shake and tremble, releasing all that stress energy before going back to grazing. Humans used to do this too, but now our stressors are emails and deadlines and difficult conversations, things we can't fight or run from. So all that energy, all those stress hormones, they just stay in your system. Incomplete cycles stacking on top of each other, keeping you in a constant state of activation. This is why talking about your stress doesn't actually relieve it. Controversial take, but hear this out. Venting feels good, temporarily, but it doesn't complete the biological stress cycle. Your body is still holding all that tension. What actually works is physical release. Intense exercise that gets your heart rate up, dancing like nobody's watching, even crying or screaming into a pillow. These physically discharge the stress response in a way that talking never can. Then there's oxytocin, the bonding hormone. Activities that release oxytocin, like hugging someone you trust for at least 20 seconds, cuddling a pet, or doing something kind for another person, these literally counteract cortisol. They tell your nervous system that you're safe, that the threat is over. But most people are so isolated in their burnout that they're not getting any of this physical or emotional release. They're just accumulating stress with no outlet, and wondering why they feel like they're losing their minds. So what actually works? Not the surface level advice you've heard 1,000 times. The real fix requires identifying what's actually stressing you, not just the symptoms. Most people think their job is the stressor, but when you dig deeper, it's usually something specific. It's not the work itself, it's the impossible deadlines. It's not your coworkers, it's the lack of boundaries. It's not the workload, it's the expectation that you'll sacrifice your personal life for your career. Once you identify the real source, you can address it. And yeah, this is where it gets uncomfortable, because addressing the real stressor usually means setting boundaries. And most people are terrified to do that. They're afraid of seeming difficult, of not being a team player, of losing opportunities. But here's the truth. Saying no isn't selfish. It's survival. Every time you say yes when you mean no, you're choosing burnout. You're choosing resentment. You're choosing to damage yourself to make someone else's life easier. Boundaries aren't about being difficult. They're about being honest about your capacity. And if your workplace punishes you for having human limitations, that tells you everything you need to know about whether you should stay there. Practical reset techniques matter too. The ones that actually work involve your nervous system, not just your schedule. Deep breathing that extends your exhale longer than your inhale. Cold exposure like splashing ice water on your face. Progressive muscle relaxation, where you tense and release each muscle group. These aren't feel-good suggestions. These are biological interventions that shift your nervous system from sympathetic to parasympathetic mode, from stressed to rest. And they work faster than any amount of positive thinking or motivation. Now let's talk about the part nobody wants to address, the system that benefits from your burnout. Hustle culture has glorified exhaustion to the point where rest is seen as laziness. Social media is flooded with people bragging about their 80-hour work weeks, their 4 a.m. wake-up times, their sacrifice. And it's celebrated, rewarded, turned into inspiration. But who actually benefits when you work yourself into the ground? Not you. Your health suffers, your relationships deteriorate, your creativity dies. The people who benefit are the ones profiting from your labor while you destroy yourself. Corporations have caught on to this. They offer wellness programs and meditation apps and mental health days, surface-level solutions that make them look good without addressing the root problem. They'll give you a yoga class but won't reduce your workload. They'll offer therapy sessions but won't change the toxic culture. It's a band-aid on a bullet wound, and it's intentional. The productivity trap is real. You're told that if you just optimize harder, manage your time better, become more efficient, you'll get on top of everything. But here's the secret they don't want you to know. The work will expand to fill whatever time you make available. Get faster at your job? They'll just give you more work. Become more efficient? Your reward is higher expectations. The goalpost keeps moving because there's always more profit to extract. Recent investigations have shown that many companies actively resist changes that would reduce burnout because burned-out employees are easier to control. They're too exhausted to advocate for themselves, too afraid of losing their job to speak up, too drained to look for better opportunities. It's not a bug in the system, it's a feature. And recognizing that is uncomfortable because it means the solution isn't just personal, it's structural. But that doesn't mean you're powerless. Here's what you need to understand. You have two choices: burn bright or burn out. Burning bright means knowing your limits and respecting them. It means showing up fully for the things that matter because you've protected your energy. It means building a life that's sustainable instead of spectacular for 6 months before you collapse. Burning out means pushing until there's nothing left, sacrificing your health and happiness for external validation, and ending up unable to do anything at all. The choice seems obvious when you put it like that, but in the moment, it's hard because rest feels like giving up. Boundaries feel like weakness. Self-preservation feels selfish. But think about it this way. You can't pour from an empty cup. Every flight attendant tells you to put your oxygen mask on first before helping others. Because if you pass out, you're useless to everyone, including yourself. Taking care of yourself isn't selfish. It's the only way you can show up for anything that matters. Your creativity, your relationships, your actual joy in life. All of that requires you to be functioning. And you can't function on fumes and force of will. The early signs of burnout are easy to ignore. The exhaustion that doesn't go away with rest. The cynicism creeping into everything. The feeling that nothing you do matters. The physical symptoms you keep dismissing. But catching it early is everything. Once you're deep in burnout, recovery takes months or even years. Your brain needs time to heal. Your nervous system needs consistent safety to recalibrate. The damage doesn't disappear overnight. So pay attention now. Notice what your body and mind are trying to tell you, because ignoring it doesn't make it go away. It just makes the eventual crash so much worse. You deserve to feel alive, not just survive. And recognizing burnout for what it is, a sign that something needs to change. That's the first step toward actually living again.